let's all forget about plug and play AI for a second. If your organization isn't rewiring its culture, decision making, and trust models, well, you're not AI ready. And these 4 leaders aren't here to sell you the hype. These are actually the ones doing the grind. They are doing the hard work across technology, across strategy, and transformation. So no keynotes, no jargon today, just answers to some hard questions everyone is too cautious to ask. So when we're saying AI ready, what does that actually look like under the hood? We have Bloomberg and Al-Futtaim represented here, and they really work at the intersection of scale, speed, and trust. And really, there's no room for half-built models. There's zero tolerance for this. So Gary and Himanshu, what does readiness in action really look like? Gary? What does readiness look like?
Right, so that's an excellent question. And a lot of our clients and customers are actually struggling with AI because readiness for this new technology, which is not actually new, by the way, it takes a few different forms. So to be AI ready, I think, requires you to rethink your organization, right, and actually have something of a multifaceted strategy. So AI cannot exist without data, right? So having a strategy around data that is robust, reliable, trustworthy, and well organized in a way that is suitable for AI applications, I think is critical. Human capital is a big issue. This is something that requires building a talent pipeline, potentially in different ways than people are used to, because this skill set is in extremely high demand, first of all, and second, it's highly technically sophisticated. So this is why we, for example, started building collaborations with academia many years ago. And the technology is moving extraordinarily rapidly. So without a culture of rapid exploration and actually being able to quickly adapt to change, right, you're going to struggle.
Thanks, Himanshu.
Yeah, I'll echo some of the things which Gary mentioned. In any organization, first and foremost is actually to understand that this AI is a transformative force which has come in a couple of years back. So we have to be ready at all levels. What we did in our organization is we created an AI strategy, 5 pillars. The first pillar, which is very important, is how does the business strategy, which is the normal daily goals of a business, which is always about numbers and gaining, how does AI strategy aligns to the business strategy? Because every business has a 5-year plan to grow. How does AI embed into that plan? So business strategy is first. The second aspect is the technology and the data platforms, the readiness of those. And we have been investing in a few years to actually make sure that we have the right data platforms, the cleansing of the data. So that's second. The third is how do you govern it? What is the ethical use policies? Uplifting our security posture so that we are not impacted by the governance changes that are happening across the organizations, right? Across countries. The fourth one is obviously the organizational change management, because in our organization, we are like a conglomerate. We have got 6 verticals. We have various CEOs having their own focus areas. So how do we drive that change within the organization? So we have created a forum of people, we call them as AI champions. We have a chief AI officer. We set up the AI transformation office. Moza, who is our chief AI officer, she's leading the agenda. I am the guy who is supporting her for execution, and the AI champions for divisions are leading that change across the organization. And last but not the least is people. How our employees are impacted by AI, how do we ensure that they do not get insecure on adopting this change? So there is a full plan with our HR head is leading that. So how will roles evolve? How would people be upskilled? How do we augment them with AI? And then obviously under people, I would also add our customer. We are having an outlook on how our customers are actually embracing AI. Will they trust us? Will they share their data more? Then we can serve them. So these are the 5 pillars of our AI strategy, and that's how we are getting prepared. So, yeah.
So what I'm hearing is AI readiness is really driven by strategy for readiness, for results. And if I go a little deeper, that makes me wonder, why are organizations so stuck? And I'm going to turn to Mauricio, who advises executive teams to kind of navigate this space where ambition collides with organizational inertia, and Dr. Amr, who's building systems that only work when cultures embrace experimentation and let go of certainty. So Maurizio?
Where are organizations getting stuck? Listen, it's a very complex problem. So before I go to maybe some examples, let me just describe what we see is happening. What's happening is that technology is advancing much faster than organizations actually can. Himanshu just shared with you probably what is best in class on transforming an organization to actually embrace this. But what organizations need to be doing is building a new muscle, a new stamina that doesn't necessarily exist yet. And that takes time. That new muscle that needs to be built is to resolve problems across a multitude of things, but probably 3 categories of them. Business problems, aligning what the board wants, what leadership wants, with what AI is resolving. 2, people, what the people that you have actually resolving these problems, coalescing teams together from business, from tech, from data, coming together to resolve the problems that are needed. And tech problems, of course, across your whole stack. So it is, I think organizations are getting stuck in a number of different problems like that, bringing together the technology to the problems that the business has and scaling it. At the end of the day, if you were to summarize all of this, it's about adoption and scaling. And we see a lot of great pilots. I think everybody in the room has seen great pilots, but the problem is getting them to scale. And how do you do all this muscle building that I was talking about at scale across the organization?
Dr. Amr?
Yeah, so I'm a serial entrepreneur, so I'm in the business of trying to convince companies to adopt new technologies. My previous company is a company called Cloudera. It's a company I started in 2008. That was the very first big data companies, teaching organizations how to leverage big data and do data science as part of that, and that now is a global company across the world. And my current company, Vectara, we are trying to convince organizations that the future it will require that they have these AI systems. You heard the word AI agent, I think, 100 times in this conference, but that have these AI systems that help them do things quicker, faster, and with more accuracy. And when they experience that and they see that some of their workflows will need to be disrupted completely to adopt something like that, of course, many of them will show hesitation. And that's where you, or me as an entrepreneur, providing them with such a solution in such a new wave, have to do 2 things. You have to inspire them by the art of the possible, but how this will make their business way better, and show them how it can affect results once it's deployed in the right way. But you also have to scare them as well, right? And you have to remind them of previous waves. Like if you look, for example, at the mobile wave with mobile apps and back to the iPhone in 2007, many of the largest corporations in the world ignored it completely, right? And that is what led to disruption and things like Uber coming in and taking away business from taxi drivers all over the world, and then Airbnb coming in and taking away tons of business from hospitality businesses across the world, Netflix, same thing, et cetera, et cetera. If these companies have woken up and adopted these technologies way sooner, they wouldn't have been disrupted in these ways. So you have to balance, the key point is when you're experimenting with new technology, you have to balance these 2 things to get executives to align and move ahead. 1, inspire them by how this is going to change the world, but 2, freak them out that if you actually don't adopt this right now, if you don't start adopting it in small ways right now, you will fall behind. That cannot be any more true when it comes to AI. The AI wave is moving at a speed that I have never witnessed in my technology career ever.
It's funny because on one hand, we're saying let's scare them more, and on the other hand, we're saying the reason that they're not moving fast enough is because they're afraid. They're afraid of letting go and of being wrong. And so there's an irony in that because real transformation actually requires more risk, not less. So who leads that change? And for that, I'm going to ask Himanshu, who's actually driving transformation across a legacy enterprise where trust has to scale across thousands, and Mauricio, who actually has to deal with that visionary leadership and their bold ideas while they're trying to mitigate risk. So what do leaders need to do differently to make AI happen? We'll start with Himanshu.
Yeah. What we have been doing in Al-Futtaim, and obviously when the technology was announced, GPT-4 or GPT came in almost 3 years ago now, the leaders have to actually understand how this technology can be embraced. Now, good thing in our organization, what happened is, our group CEO, Mr. Amr Al-Futtaim, he's very well connected, so he's informed. He meets all the big CEOs. He meets Satya, he meets Christian Klein, he meets Arvind, he meets a lot of other places. So he understood that this technology has to come in the organization. The task was handed over to me, saying that, okay, you are the chief technology officer, how do you bring this change into the organization? The first thing we knew is it's a business transformation. It's not a technology transformation. Technology will be behind, but it's a business transformation. So we created the AI office and an AI transformation office. We appointed an AI officer. In fact, we were the first one to set up the AI office in this region. In February of 2024, we announced our AI officer. The second thing was, how do we embrace the leadership, which is the senior leaders, and the second line of leadership, and share that strategy, which I talked about, the 5-pillar strategy. So we started working on something called AI Summits. So we started creating an agenda called the AI Summit, where we actually set up a room like this, where we shared our strategy, we shared our vision, we got the presidents to actually take an oath on how they will embrace AI to transform their business. So from the group CEO, the presidents got embraced, and there were 200 senior management leaders of Al-Futtaim, different bands, directors, managing directors, in that room, listening to us on what can be done. Some of them, some external participants happened. So AI Summit became a very good change agent for us. And there was a theme to it, accelerate to execution. So experiment, so there was a theme around it. Then 6 to 8 months later, we actually did second AI Summit for people to showcase what they have done in 8 months. We brought in people on the ground who had used things like simple Copilot, Microsoft Copilot. We got employees to talk about, in last 6 months, what did they do with Copilot? How did it change their life? So we wanted real world examples. So we did around experimentation of around 40 plus use cases. 8 of them made it to production. 2 or 3 of them we are very proud of. One of them is Blue AI Advisor. You should download Blue and try it out. You can talk to Blue for any service. It's one of the first in this region. So that's how you have to manage the change. And I think the way it's working out is all the presidents and their one-downs, who are the AI champions, some of them, are now leading this change for us. And my job is easy. I have to execute the change. And the chief AI officer and me are a combination who are actually working to lead it. So that's how we have simplified our situation.
Himanshu, I beg to differ. Your job is not easy, and you're doing a great job at it, it seems. Listen, I think that there's 2 schools of thought about leadership in AI. I mean, you can hear, and I'm sure we all have read articles or heard podcasts, et cetera, about how leaders need to change what they're doing. We need to focus on a number of other things. The other side of the argument is leadership is leadership. You need to continue to be a good leader, and you're good. I think I'm more on the latter part, but with a few nuances. I mean, certainly leadership in adapting and adopting to technology that is changing business and the world so deeply does require some intentionality on a few things. And I would say, to some of the points that you said, Himanshu, first of all, leadership themselves need to get educated. I'm subjecting myself, not as a service provider, but also as a leader of my own organization, to such a training. And there shouldn't be any taboo on senior leaders, CXOs, CEOs, and board members getting educated about the potential so that you can actually lead an organization on it, number one. Number two, I would say alignment. This alignment that I talked about from the top all the way to the bottom on AI serving the business and not just serving what it can do, a knife looking for something to cut, is absolutely essential. And leaders need to lead that. Number three, I would say amalgamation or blending of your teams. Putting teams that are from the business, that are from tech, that speak different languages, that work differently, and making them work together at scale consistently across every function and organization. That's why I say that it's not easy. Executing that, I mean, it sounds easy, but it's not that easy. And you need to have the right governance and the right platforms and the right evaluation mechanisms, so all of that works. Then I move to experimentation. Experimentation is, I think, a muscle that we haven't used in business that much in the past maybe couple decades. I think that this forces us, this transformation forces us to use it, not because only of the innovation, but because it's a forcing function to move our teams to actually come together and to break things together and be part of the life of business. And finally, in order to do that successfully, you need to have the right incentives. You need to, as a leader, show that you have the back of your people to do those experimentations, to get it not right all the time. I was asking my fellow panelists earlier, how do they see when they are trying something new and it doesn't work? Well, you start up again, you do it again, and you do it a little bit better. So that incentivizing process is super important. So those would be some of the intentionalities that I would posit that leaders need to focus on.
So it's interesting because if we're going to experiment more, we're going to go more into this new buzz that I'm hearing about, which is an AI system that can take action, not just offer suggestions, because that's the direction we're all going into. And are we ready to let go when we have so much fear of risk? Dr. Amr is building these systems from the inside out, where trust is not a feature, it's a foundation to do that. And Gary's team at Bloomberg is really pushing the frontier on AI governance, where explainability isn't optional, now it's operational. So when I hear this and I hear what leaders have to do, and I completely agree that leaders need to be able to be in a position of open admitting that they're open to learning themselves, or the leaders that don't, let's get rid of them and let's get new leaders that are doing that. But where's the line between progress and risk? So we'll start with you, Gary.
I get the easy questions, right? Inherently, any new technology carries risk, right? AI, in that sense, is no different. But the kinds of risks that it brings, I think, are, in many cases, new, right? So before we get to autonomous agents that take actions and whatnot, let's, start with simpler things, right? So my co-panelists have mentioned governance, right? That is a crucial issue, right? That you have to take seriously. Right, explainability that Dr. Sonia has mentioned, right, is indeed very important, but it's not an end unto itself, right? That is a tool, a way that you use to make your systems transparent and trustworthy to users. So that is one of the key ways to address risk, right? Make people trust the product that you give them, right, and enable them to understand how it works. We encountered this issue actually quite early. So we started working on machine learning and AI applications all the way back in 2007, 2008 timeframe. So 15 plus years ago, right? This was quite a different world back then, right? This was not like, this is before transformers, before deep learning, before ChatGPT, right? And we built things which were in some cases way ahead of their time, right? Tools for analysis of unstructured data, tools for translation, for analysis of financial markets, and so on. In some cases, things that allowed people to make money in very different new ways, right? And we would bring them to market, and then people would reject them, right? Because they didn't understand how they worked. Right, so, I have two hats. I teach at Columbia University and I work at Bloomberg. right? And I have deep connections with academic community. So I remember speaking about interpretability and explainability of AI models to people all the way back then, and it was like shouting into the void. Like people looked at me blankly and said, like, but why? Why is that important, right? So, you know, now as these machines are being applied in increasingly many mission-critical scenarios, right, not limited to finance, but medicine, robotics, et cetera, right, now finally people have caught on, right, that this is a crucial thing. But explainability is just one aspect of it, right? Again, trust kind of is grounded not just in transparency, but also in reliability, robustness, right? And these models, which are all the hype, all the rage these days, they do have substantial limitations, right, in terms of how trustworthy they are, right? So like everyone has heard about hallucinations at this point, but that's not the only failure mode that these large language models have, these generative AI models have. Like they are not great at reasoning, they're not great at math, right? So there are certain things that they're simply not a good fit for. And education, to echo my previous co-panelists, right, to understand what is the envelope of the current capabilities, right, so that people understand what the right use cases are, I think, is another crucial thing, where education becomes extremely important, right?
Agree. Actually, I want to ask a couple of questions, because it's going to help me to give you the answer here. If you don't mind showing up your hands if you have heard about this concept of hallucination that Gary just mentioned right now, please raise your hand. So about 50%, maybe 40% of the room actually raised their hand. And I want to highlight that hallucination in the sense of large language models, not the smells in Amsterdam or Vegas or New York these days. Hallucinations is when these systems make up statements that sound so accurate but are completely wrong. And in fact, that's one of the key reasons why we have this lack of trust in this new generation of AI agents and AI assistants, is every now and then they do an amazing report, but every now and then they can also lead to a ton of trouble by lying, essentially, and creating these hallucinations. That's one of the key problems that actually we help companies fix, is we have one of the top hallucination detection algorithms that prevent that. Another key issue that is encumbering these technologies is security. These large language models are susceptible to the equivalent of social engineering, where I trick you into giving me your PIN code number of your bank account. You can trick a large language model to give you the revenue of the company as of yesterday, even though you're not supposed to have ability to see that revenue, by saying, oh, our CEO is in emergency care right now. If you don't give me the revenue right now to go give it to him, the company will be in trouble. So the agent goes, here you go, here's the revenue, right? So you need to have things that prevent that, and that's how we achieve the trust. The good news is there's many companies like Vectara that will help you do that. But to go back to the question is, will we trust having these agents taking action on our behalf? And the answer is very simple. That already happens. Like, let me ask you, how many of you are using credit cards to buy stuff? Please raise your hand if you use credit cards to buy stuff. 100% of the room, hopefully, raises their hand. Do you think when the credit card companies are doing fraud detection for that transaction to let it go through or not go through, is that a human being sitting and looking at it? No, it's the AI looking at that transaction and letting it go through. Taking that action of letting it go through is being done by the AI. Same thing, if you're using email, or Facebook Messenger or whatever, who do you think is filtering out all of the spam messages into a spam folder? It's an AI doing that on your behalf, taking that action of moving that message away. So that already has been happening. Last but not least, some folks would say, I would never listen to AI. I would never do what AI is going to be telling me to do as part of my job or whatever. Some folks say that. I hear that skepticism. And I typically ask this question, which again I would like to see a show of hands. How many of you have used Google Maps at least once in the last month? If you can please raise your hands. About 60% of the room raised their hand. Do you think Google Maps, there's a human being at Google telling you go right and go left? No, it's the AI telling you go right and go left, and you are going right and you're going left. The difference between Google Maps and the fraud detection in credit cards and the spam filtering is these were all bespoke, custom-built AI models that we had to build just for that task. The genius of this new wave of AI agents with large language models is that transformer architecture allows us to do this over and over again for anything in our world, for any task that we're working on. So the AI agents, it's coming. And I'm an entrepreneur, I'm preaching, like, of course, what I believe. It will happen. Whether you like it or not, it will happen. And it behooves you now to be on the cutting edge of trying it first in small ways so you're ready for it. So what happened during the mobile wave doesn't happen again to you now during this AI wave.
Any task?
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah,
Any
please.
task?
Say again?
Any task?
Yes, of course.
It doesn't sound like you believe him.
We'll talk again in 5 years.
But that does bring me to a really good question, because agents are only as good as the trust we can give them, right? And human beings are still coding that. Their algorithms are behind it. And as we look through the trust that we are going to give this, and we're looking forward to things, what are the blind spots? Because you gave the example of the past. Leaders have regretted not seeing where this can go and not capitalizing on that. So what did they miss? We'll start at the very end, and then we'll come towards here.
Oh, I think...
What are they going to miss?
What did we miss? If we fast forward to the future, I cannot imagine where we were going to be in a few years at this space that we're going. But I think there's a few things, a few realities that I would expect that we would be thinking about, that we say we wish we did that faster. I think the first one is that this AI transformation is a game of speed, not a game of coolness. It's not about the coolest use case and the finalized use case. It's get something out and then you develop. It's about evolution, not about perfection. And we are trained all our lives. And we go to business school, or we go to engineering school, we go to any school. It's about correctness. It's about perfection. And we need to go against everything that we teach into our society for this to be applied. And we will probably think about a few things that we've said in this panel. We should have experimented more earlier. We should have broken more glass in the organization. I should have taken that courageous step of changing the governance, of taking away the leadership from here and putting it there. I think those are some things that we're going to look back and say, I wish we could have done it sooner.
I will just try to imagine, like, if we don't embrace AI in our organization, there are multiple impacts which will have. One, obviously, the customers will not feel that this is an innovative, transformative organization. A simple thing like you walk into our showroom, a guy is nicely talking to you, and I repeat the same question 10 times. You have scanned the website, you know which car you wanted, I ask the same things again, right? And I then bore you. And the other company there is super smart, and as soon as you walk in, the car is ready and they test drive. So we lose business, one. The second, our employees will say, I don't want to work with this organization because they want us to type every document. I can't use a co-pilot agent to even type. I don't want to waste my time. I want to live my life. So that we lose people. So that is there. So we lose business, we lose people. Obviously, we lose our identity. And at the end of the day, in next 5 years, if we don't embrace AI, I don't think we'll exist. It's as simple as that. We won't exist as a retail organization. And we know it's about speed. And that's why accelerating to execution, vision to value. Today we are doing vision to value. This year we'll establish every use case which gives us value. Next year we'll measure the value, and then AI will be ingrained in our DNA of the entire organization, and then we'll just sail through. And Al-Futtaim will continue for another 100 years.
Gary?
Inshallah.
Right, I don't think you need to reach far into the future, right, because this is already happening around us, right? And again, I come to examples from my academic kind of side, right? So, you get assignments handed into you by students which are in perfect English, and then they cannot speak English when you actually talk to them face to face, right? The recent survey indicates that something like 60% of school teachers in the United States are using ChatGPT to create lesson material. Right? I leave it to the audience to estimate how many of your children are using ChatGPT to solve those assignments, right? So, which leads me to question, where is the learning happening, right? To Amr's point, right? You have to actually know what to expect, right? If you actually can, before you can use these models effectively in a kind of trustworthy, kind of sensible way, right? When people are learning, they lack that skill, right? So the same comments I hear from my software engineering colleagues, right? They use all these tools and they had started using them before many, right? Like to, for example, write code, but they, time and time again, I hear the same feedback. You cannot trust the thing to produce code that you don't yourself understand, right? Because it will produce something that looks real and looks very plausible, but it will not work, and it will fail in kind of obscure ways, right? So, I think if we are collectively, right, running forward before we can walk in many cases, right? And not in our world, not in technology space, not in the finance space, right? But in kind of broader sense, right?
Yeah. Agreed. So, but back to the question of like, why do leaders and organizations miss waves like this? It's very simple. We humans don't like change. Most humans don't like change. Change is painful, and we want to avoid pain, right? And there is a very great book which is called The Innovator's Dilemma, which speaks about this for companies. This is exactly the pitfall that companies fall in, is we know how to make money this way, let's just keep doing it the same way over and over again. and that's called the innovator dilemma. Oh, this new way of doing it, it only makes 1% of the money I'm making over here. Let me keep doing it that way. And by the time you wake up, it's too late, right? So we're seeing the first innings of that in the AI wave. OpenAI right now with ChatGPT has 500 million active users per week. Google is freaking out, right? Google is freaking out. Google, this amazing innovative company, is being disrupted right now because of this. When it comes to AI for developers, and we're using it for coding, if any developers in the room, you would know a very popular site called Stack Overflow. It was our go-to place to get information for how to code. Stack Overflow is dying right now as a company. And that's happening for education across. A number of the top education websites in the US are all dying right now because of ChatGPT. We are the first innings, and the signals are there. So again, I'm sorry for scaring you, but that's what you have to look at. It's happening so fast this time. And if you don't start doing the amazing work that Himanshu is doing in his organization of picking things and trying it in small ways here or there to build that muscle memory, you will fall behind. You have to face the change. Don't be scared of the change.
There you have it. And I think that this audience will go away with greater fear, but also greater motivation, I hope. Because let's be clear, the one thing I hear here is AI isn't going to be a future you plan for. The speed that you're demanding, and like you said, it's not just the technology's going, and let's face it, AI has been around a lot longer and being used a lot longer than what the general public believes.
Just now it's going
So it's the present that you are leading, and that leadership is not more evident than in this room, in this venue, in this event at the Dubai AI Festival. So to me, this is not a global gathering, it's a global message. And what we've heard today, thanks to and honestly, it's been incredibly generous insights from Dr. Amr, Ghurair, Himanshu, and Mauricio, because they were honest and it was raw. And it offers us not just tips and tricks, which is what you usually get on a panel, but what they've demanded is that you actually change the way you're thinking. And I know that that's hard, but the fact is that, as you said, we don't need another A pilot. And if you're walking away from this festival and you're about to write a white paper, we don't need another white paper. And if you need to, just get chat to do it for you, and then get a student to answer the questions for you using chat, as Gary told us. But what we need is actual bold leadership that's courageous, and that means we need cultures that carry transformation. And nowhere else will you get that more boldly than in the UAE. Dubai in particular right now, not just codes it, but triggers it. And what I think these panelists cut through is the noise. There's a lot of noise around this, and they challenged our assumptions. They've definitely challenged mine. And they've shed light on what it really takes to build from the ground up. And that's what this was all about. So I have deep gratitude for the panelists. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.